than Christmas candy. It's Valentine's candy. Have some.
Hey,
Oh.
who said it?
From the heart comes a warning filled with bloody good cheer. Remember what happened as the 14th draws near. It can't be happening again. It can't be happening again.
Welcome back to The Average. Now, look, we know the calendar says Valentine's Day is technically past, but here we believe romance should be celebrated properly. And by properly, we mean with gas masks, industrial mines, and a legendary pickaxe.
That's right. We are celebrating Valentine's a little late and a lot more macabre. Tonight, we are descending into the 1981 Canadian slasher classic, My Bloody Valentine. This isn't just another body count movie. This is a film that Tarantino himself once called the best slasher movie of all time.
It's a bold claim, but the pedigree is there. The film was part of that massive post-Halloween slasher boom, but it stood out because of its setting. While everyone else was in the suburbs, director George Mihalka took us to the gritty blue-collar town of Valentine Bluffs.
And did the MPAA hate him for that? The original cut was so gory that the censors demanded 9 minutes of footage be removed. It took nearly 30 years for fans to finally see the uncut version in all of its bloody gory.
But before we get into the gore, we have to talk about how we do things here. Whether you're a diehard horror buff, a fan of classic cinema, or just a casual viewer looking for a bloody good time, this is your show.
That's the heart of what we do at The Average. We don't just talk at you, we invite you to join the panel. Right now, you can find the link in our bio to access The Average scorecard, and we want you to use the same 9 categories we use to submit your own rating.
Your scores aren't just for show. We read audience reviews right here in the episode. And if you're following along with us in the live chat, jump in. Share your scores as we go through each category. Your live feedback will be shared with everyone here and will directly influence the final average that goes on our Season 4 leaderboard.
So grab that link, get your pickaxes ready, and let's see if Harry Warden can win over the community tonight.
We're going to find out if those kills and that legendary heart in a box still hold up under our 9-category scorecard. But because this is such a massive cult favorite, we knew we couldn't tackle the mines alone.
We have assembled what can only be described as a horror pantheon tonight. We are incredibly humbled to be joined by some of the best voices in the community.
First up, a man who knows the genre inside and out, Jordan from At the Movie Den. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. I love that intro. Very humbled, but no, thank you for asking me to come on when you guys asked. And I saw the list. I was like, My Bloody Valentine. It has to be that. I love this movie. So thank you.
Glad you're here. We also have the man, the myth, and the legend himself, Chris, known as @BeardedFilmGuy, and from Beyond the Blood Pod. That's the Beyond the Blood Pod. Right? Did I get that right, Chris?
Yeah, you got it right. You got it right.
I stumbled over my words a little.
No,
But hey, Chris.
What's up, guys? Thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it. This is a movie I'm very passionate about, and I've spent almost 6 months of my life kind of researching and diving into. So I'm excited to talk about it with everyone here.
Awesome. So finally, joining us to complete this macabre Valentine's party, we have the duo that lives and breathes this stuff. Rich and Jerry from @HorrorHeads Podcast.
What's up?
Yeah, what's up? Excited to lose my The Average virginity tonight. Let's get romantic with it.
Pop that cherry.
Yeah, thanks for having us here. Super excited.
Awesome. Gentlemen, welcome to Valentine's Bluffs. We got the scorecard ready. The mines are open, and the Ballad of Harry Warden is playing softly in the background.
We've got a lot of ground to cover, from the infamous censorship battles to the blue-collar grit that makes this movie unique. This is The Average, where the real review happens with your friends. And tonight, we brought a lot of friends.
So we start off with that story. We're going to talk about the story first. So not the a lot of people their first time get story and script mixed up. Story is the idea of what we're seeing on screen. Script is how well it's executed. So who wants to jump in? If you are excited about the story, go first. I don't have to go first. Someone else can.
Anyone is welcome to do it, but I just want to say first off, the mines are for the Minecraft ass children, not for me. These mines, dude.
Oh no.
Let the children have the mines. Put them back in there. No mines for me, bro. No going on the ground. Not happening.
So
take it away.
So I appreciate, this is kind of one of the big three of the original slasher, Halloween, Friday the 13th, and this film, My Bloody Valentine. And Halloween and My Bloody Valentine, I love them both. Friday the 13th is my franchise. I love the franchise, but I think the first movie is the worst movie. Well, not the worst. Jason Takes Manhattan's pretty bad.
Nah.
In a fun way, in a tremendously fun way. But the of those like kickoff movies, I like this one a heck of a lot more than Friday the 13th. And I don't know what it is about this movie. I appreciate, let me pull up my notes here. I do like the setup of this film. I like the gritty blue collar aspect of it. Working men hitting the bar at night when they're done, hanging out with the girls, and they're really just looking forward to this dance that they haven't had basically their entire lives, not since they were young. They would never remember. And that's what they're looking forward to. But what I love that this movie does is basically this younger generation has no idea what they're getting into. And the old guard, the police and the people who've been here before are the ones who know what's happening, who know that Harry Warden is out there threatening to take these lives if this dance continues. And I think it creates a really suspenseful atmosphere, which I think is often my biggest drawback with a ton of slashers, is they're not super suspenseful. They're fun. This one, I think, has that suspense because it kind of uses that classic Hitchcock idea of, we know this guy is taking people out, but those teenagers don't, because the police don't want to make a big deal about it. You know, she died of a heart attack. We're not going to mention that she was shoved into the dryer. And so we have this suspenseful element of waiting for the bubble to burst when these kids realize that Harry Warden is out there and he is taking lives. And I think that adds some real suspense to this story that I think makes it stand out definitely more than Friday the 13th for me.
Yeah.
But in a lot of the other standard slasher fare. And this, not to diss on slasher fare, I love slasher films, but this one is, I think it's just elevates it a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think I actually kind of agree with you, because I'm kind of notorious for saying that I think Friday the 13th Part 2 is a better movie than Friday the 13th is.
I don't argue with you there. I think 6 is the peak, but Jason Lives is my favorite, but you're right. I think 2 is better than 1.
Well, I think what happens is it's really interesting because you have Bob Clark in 74 does Black Christmas, right? John Carpenter, heavily inspired from Bob Clark, does Halloween. And then you get into the ripoff territory where Sean Cunningham says, okay, you know what? Let's grab this holiday. We'll grab Friday the 13th. We'll make a poster without any funding, and we'll see if this works. So that comes out in 1980. Then 1981, you have, I think, technically what I would consider like the formation of what the slasher would become. You have Friday the 13th Part 2, Halloween 2, My Bloody Valentine comes. Like, all of these big hitters land, and this is when you start kind of seeing the slasher genre being built to what it will be for the next 9 years, at least dominantly. And I think My Bloody Valentine doesn't get enough credit for that, because to me, this feels the most lived in. Valentine Bluffs feels like a real place with real people, and you can thank the Canadian. This is like the most Canadian movie ever made, so you know you can thank that.
Oh, I just have to interject because you said that the scene on the bluffs, like overlooking the water. I'm sorry when he's I'm sorry. It's so Canadian, very Canadian.
Yeah, it is. I think what's really interesting here too is that while Friday the 13th Part 2 was upping the violence from Friday the 13th, you have Halloween 2 getting progressively more violent than the first Halloween. None of those sequels are as violent as My Bloody Valentine is. So I think this movie kind of gets like no credit for being kind of an early adopter of the extreme violence side. And of course, for 30 years, nobody saw the extreme side of it because it was so cut up.
Exactly.
But now when we go back in retrospect, we can see that.
Can I jump in really quick? Because I did see the uncut version. So like for me, this movie felt very lacking. Like it felt not extreme enough. So I would just like kind of like to know, what did I actually miss by not seeing that 9 minutes that was cut? Because that's my big complaint of this movie is that if you watch, I think I watched it on Pluto or wherever I watched it, it's not very violent in my opinion. So you're saying that different. So like, how can you tell me some of the scenes or some of the things that I missed?
I watched the Amazon version from 81 that was on there, so I don't know if that was the full or if that was unrated or like
the one scene that I can think of that immediately you would know. It's to me, it's a powerful kill in this movie. Is when the bartender gets a pickaxe through his jaw and out his eye.
Yeah. It has the eyeball hanging up into the pickaxe.
Yeah, his eyeball pops out and is hanging off the side of his face.
Like, I did not see that. Yeah,
that was brutal.
Yeah,
okay. Johnathan missed that too.
Well, even the opening kill is cut up.
With Mabel.
Where it goes through with her heart through her back.
Yeah, and we're pretty much like I think 7.5 minutes of the total 9 minutes has been is fully back. There still is the kill. I forget their names offhand, but the couple that sneaks off into the mine into the break room. That is completely missing because during the editing process, they were chopping it up so much to try to get it to pass that it actually they lost that footage. So that was the only bit they were not able to replace of the total 9 minutes cut.
Damn.
Well, if I remember correctly, and I thought, and Chris, you could, I mean, I know you would know, but there's a kill and I'm with you. I forget the names, but the couple, and she gets the water pipe through her
shower.
And I feel like that originally longer. There was some still missing out of that.
Yeah, I think there's still, it's mostly replaced. I mean, you're talking about like seconds. In the commentary track, even George Mahalka, the director, he barely has any memory of what was originally there that hasn't been restored. The only thing he fully remembers is the couple kill scene, kind of with the giant screw. Their bodies are just found. That was the only scene that he said they were completely unable to bring back. But for the most part, it's pretty much like 98%, restored.
Is the scene in the scene when they're climbing up the ladder and the man falls down and is decapitated by a rope? Is that in the cut version?
I saw that in what I saw.
Well, okay, the head pops off and it sprays the girls as they're climbing.
I didn't see that.
You see the fall
I mean,
down and it's ground at the bottom.
That's one of my favorite kills. I don't know if we're going, jumping the gun there, but I mean,
jumping around.
It's more than just the head. I mean, his like half of his shoulder and chest go with him. It's a lot more than just the head. And I always thought that was very over the top, almost borderline funny. But it's one of those that I just find I love.
Yeah, if I remember, I don't think in the theatrical, Rich, do you see the actual like head and stuff on the ground or not at all?
No, I didn't see that at all. So yeah, I feel definitely disadvantaged. I think because it's like you all are raving about this movie, and I had a very different experience and opinion about it. So I feel like I didn't even see the same movie as you all because I think these things that you're mentioning would have definitely added to my enjoyment of this film. And I know we'll go category by category, and there's definitely issues I have with a bunch of stuff, but that was my main thing why this is one I'll probably won't watch again because of that.
I highly recommend trying to watch the uncut version if you can.
I would, it sounds I would like it a lot more if there was more violence in it.
Because I kind of agreed the first time I saw this movie. I saw the theatrical release and I was like, what is the big deal? This was the tamest movie I have seen. And then I have since got the Shout Factory Steelbook that has the uncut version as well. And watching that, it changes the experience of the movie, and it almost makes the Friday the 13th movies look tame in comparison to some of this. It's
Mhm.
it's good. So I do recommend that. I also think having your perspective of the theatrical version and not the uncut enhances the conversation. So don't feel slighted
So
by
don't
that.
leave yet.
No, I think that
I was like, click, I'm out. You know? I'm going on a different podcast now. I'm done.
I think that is a fair. I think that's a fair critique of this film, is that the theatrical version is still out there, and that's a lot of people's first experience with this film. And it's also, we'll get into the cultural significance later, but the theatrical version has a big impact on why this movie was kind of, I don't want to say forgotten, but kind of under the radar for so many years, why it didn't inspire 10 sequels, you know?
Mhm.
And that's part of the conversation. So I love that.
And I rented this movie way back in the day, probably over 20 years ago, from the video store on VHS, and I remember not liking it, and I've never watched it since. So that was why I was excited to get on this episode so I could rewatch it, because I never wanted to see it again, and now I definitely want to see this other version.
I should have told you guys to find the uncut version. Man, my bad.
Well, what's funny, like one thing that's always interesting to me about the early kind of like slasher boom is how most people took like, okay, we're going to step up, we're going to make it more violent. And instead of just getting more violent, these movies got meaner. Like Halloween 2, there's nothing as mean as when he holds the nurse's head under the boiling water. You know, like that's mean. My Bloody Valentine, every kill in this movie is incredibly angry and mean. And I'm even reflecting that into, you know, Friday the 13th Part 2, when Mark gets whacked in the face by the machete, and then you have to see his body in a wheelchair roll down
the stairs.
4 flights of steps. So things really took an aggressive turn. There was no like gradual climb into it. It went from very kind of like, okay, you know, a slit throat in the woods, you know, that's violent, to like, oh fuck, this shit like is like hitting hard now.
It's the one-upmanship of the kill, basically. So jumping on the story, guys, anybody else have comments on that story, the premise of the miners, this revenge kind of killing from the miner that was trapped during the dance and left for 6 days, surviving off the bodies of his other trapped miners? That's some dark stuff. I kind of like that backstory for our killer, but anybody else comments on the story?
Yeah, so we could spoil stuff here, right? Like
absolutely.
Okay, yeah. I mean, my take on the story is I do appreciate that the mining town, most of the movie or half of it takes place in a mine. Never seen that before and haven't seen it since. It's very creepy type of location, so I like the setting aspect of it. With regards to the story, to me, like a lot of it felt a little confusing, and I think because there's like the red herring of the miner that got trapped there, which really has nothing to do with kind of what's happening now. So I didn't really feel it was that unique a story, other than just a typical slasher revenge story. It was, other than again the mining aspect of it, which I thought was cool. I don't really think it was that unique. It was just kind of like, okay, we need to have someone have revenge. What could we do? Okay, he gets trapped in a mine, and then kind of there's this, and maybe again the version I saw is different, but when you finally get to the end and find out who the killer was, it was so like quick and like wasn't set up at all. So it was kind of like, oh, okay, this random character did all of this because of something that you see 30 seconds of happening when he was a kid. So to me, I didn't feel like it was that. And I know the story is different than script. I didn't feel it was that unique, other than the setting and location. But I know you all have different opinions, so kind of would love to kind of hear more.
Yeah, the story wise for me, I'm kind of, this is I think the only one that I gave not like a 10. I thought this movie I love this movie, but the story, it's interesting because it kind of goes both ways, right? I'm in the middle of the road because yes, it is a revenge slasher movie. It's been done, right? But what to me, what makes it so unique and compelling is, one, it's not teenagers.
Yeah.
Right. You have a working class young adults. That hasn't been done. And I thought that was really, really neat. These very blue collar workers. These are, you know, these what you would call manly men. They worked in the mine. They took care of their women, and those were the victims of this movie. I also feel like with this, now this is just my opinion. The way maybe I justify it in my head a little bit is that there was always supposed to be maybe a sequel, because the way it ends, I always thought, okay, it's not. It was Axel who was doing all the killing because right? His dad was killed by Harry Warden in front of his eyes, and it messed with him. Is that in my mind, a sequel always he runs off and the next one will pick up, where now we really get Harry Warden, maybe a pseudo Friday the 13th, right? The first one is really Pamela Voorhees, but the second one, now we're getting the true story of Jason coming in. This is really when Harry Warden comes in and kind of, I don't know, maybe actually runs off. Harry Warden's really there and offs him. And now we are getting the whole My Bloody Valentine franchise. Like I said, that's a lot of me coming up in my head, but like I said, that's why I think it's a little middle of the road with the story, is that yes, at the core it's a slasher and we have so many of those, but really it's the young adults that has never been done before. You know, these are very working class, manly men that are getting killed, and plus that's how I justify the ending.
So I get that. I'll be quiet after this, but I think my main issue with the story, and maybe because I didn't grow up in a really small Canadian town, so I don't know in the 80s, so I don't know the experience, but the fact that the big thing that sets this guy off is a dance, to me just seems silly, because like, I don't know, as a young adult, if I'm in my 20s, I don't want to go to a dance. It just sounds like, who cares? Like, I'm going to go to a dance in my town that has like 30 people living in it. So to me, it just feels like that's what set this guy off all of a sudden, that they're throwing a dance. And I get it, kind of, okay, the dance was the reason why the miners left and the one guy got trapped and then he ended up killing people. But it just seems a little far-fetched that's like, this guy's lived for 20 plus years, been completely normal, and now the town is throwing a dance and he's going to kill all these people. That just seems like poor writing to me, but it doesn't seem very interesting. But that's
the trauma connection's there, though. I mean, it's kind of hard not to deny that, because I saw this and I thought Silent Night, Deadly Night. You got someone who's running around costume, killing people because of a childhood trauma. And Axel's dad was one of those two supervisors who bailed and let that accident happen. So there is a significant impact there.
There's always a trigger that triggers that kind of sadistic way of thinking that, okay, now, he may have never thought that this would affect him the way it did until that one trigger happened. And I know, we might make it's a dance. So what?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Rich, you were saying, not growing up in a small Canadian town. I think your perspective is lacking because you've never cooked a hot dog on an engine bay in a junkyard.
Well, you don't know that about me. It's very possible that I have.
That is true. Yeah, that's true. No, I don't know. Always, when it comes to plot, I always try to look at things in the context of like, what am I looking to get out of something, right? I don't need this overly, I don't even want to say complicated, this overly complex plot to enjoy somebody in a mining costume offing people for an hour and a half. So in my mind, like when I rated it, I was thinking of it in the context of the film. I'm like, it gave me what I needed out of it, where I wasn't really concerned about it. It wasn't sticking out to me. There was nothing that I was additionally like really questioning outside of like, yeah, it's silly. So I think it was simple enough. You're also still so early in the slasher genre. A lot of what's to come in 83, 84, 85, when things are a little bit more kind of trying to change and stay ahead of the curve. Things get more complex, and I think sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. So for me, when I rated it, it just delivered what I needed it to deliver to make what I'm truly looking forward to, which is the kills and the silliness. I didn't have any issues with.
I mean, I like the plot, so I'm just going to throw that out there. I mean, for me, this is a holiday horror film. I mean, that's what it is. One of the first one, like probably the first to kind of like have Valentine's Day as like, kind of like, surrounded like the plot. I don't think anyone's done that before. And a revenge plot against faulty management. I mean, how blue collar is that? I mean, that's
beautifully stated.
Badass. I mean, come on, that's pretty badass. And what I think they did a fairly good job with, which I mean, it bothered Rich, but I think they did a good job by kind of keeping the killer a mystery. Like you really didn't know, like maybe you didn't feel like there was enough for him to like, end up being the killer. And so I think there was a lot of confusion. Like, could it be Harry? Could it be someone else? Who is this really? And I found that part like interesting because they did throw out so many red herrings, and for me, not remembering this film. I haven't watched it too many times. It was a surprise, when it happened. So I was like, hell yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean, for someone to live in a town called Valentine's Bluff, Valentine is in their DNA.
Yeah, they love it.
They take town very seriously.
I do want to say, I think the remake handled the story and the killer better than the original did, because it kind of went in and knew it gave Jensen Ackles' character a little bit more like, it built up to him. They gave you some red herrings, but when you have the moment when he's breaking the light bulbs and it's kind of popping and showing him inside, I think the remake handled it better. I think that's the one thing that the remake kind of did one up the original on. But again, I do think the remake in comparison is a little overly complex for its own good. So it kind of like falls on both sides for me.
Yeah. I'll actually watch that later tonight after we were done.
That's a fun one. I enjoy that remake. That was in the early 2000s when they had to do extreme remakes of all of these movies. We had Black Christmas.
I just remember a lot of nudity. That's all I remember about the remake.
There wasn't that one.
Definitely need to watch it.
That's all I remember.
There's also a little every time I think of the remake, I think of nudity and a little person. That's all I think of.
Nailed it.
Is there nudity in the uncut version of the 1981?
No. So that is one thing. That is one thing that I actually I'll bring it up. I'm gonna say it now because I'll forget later. I give credit to the director kind of because it kind of sets us up at that beginning scene, undressing in the mine, that we're about to see a Friday the 13th, teenagers having sex in the mines and getting taken off one by one. And it kind of just sets it up like that. And then it goes away entirely. And at first I feel misled, but I also kind of like the move. I think it was kind of smart. So your scores, guys, we'll move on from the story here. I gave the story itself a 4 because I do think it elevates the typical teenagers getting hacked for wanting to sleep together. I think it elevates that a little bit more. It brings just enough new to the plate. Like, other than the girl at the very beginning, the next kill is an elderly woman who runs the laundromat. That's just
Not
nasty.
Mabel.
Yeah, poor Mabel. So. And I do kind of like the Scooby-Doo whodunit aspect of who's behind that mask. I do kind of enjoy that. So I give the story a 4.
I'm a 3.
Yeah, I gave it. I gave it a 4. I do think there's a lot of like really good little like side elements here. Like I love the relationship between Mabel and Newbie, kind of like this, this kind of like unspoken kind of like thing there. I think that speaks more in character than it does in story, but I think it tries a little bit more in some areas than others. And, I'm perfectly fine with it. So 4 felt perfect for me.
Yeah. I went middle of the road. 3, I was with Johnathan on that one. That's kind of where I was at.
Yeah, I went 4 as well. I liked it, and I like all these comparisons to Friday 13th because I literally went and saw it on Friday 13th in theaters. So
Sweet.
that was a good rewatch on a big screen. But I think I did enjoy this a little bit more, so I'm going to stick with my 4. Now we all got to hear what Rich's is.
Yeah, look, I gave it a 2. I would have given it a full 1 if it wasn't for the mining town. Again, I'm way off what you guys see in this movie, and I don't need a real complicated plot for a slasher movie. It could be very simple. I just didn't think this was anything special. It was just okay, like it's typical slasher movie. And to me, it felt like, and it kind of was like just like a money grab of okay, let's do another holiday horror movie because Friday the 13th did well, Halloween did well. So to me, I just didn't think it was anything special. And I to be honest, like when it got to the end, I was kind of confused. And so that's my opinion.
Hey, no, the ending is incredibly confusing. I'll be honest with you. It comes out of nowhere, and even still to this day, every time I rewatch this movie, I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm like,
It was a twist that didn't need to be. Like they could have just had it be, the original guy who they thought it was. It didn't need to be like, oh, it's this other guy. But unless again they were setting up a sequel, which who knows?
And that's kind of how I feel
on that reveal when it comes to the editing section of the film. But I would agree. But Jordan, did you give your score?
Yeah, 3.
Did we lose Jordan?
Hello?
He said
I heard him. Yeah, I heard him.
He gave a 3 earlier.
Okay. And Johnathan?
I also said I was a 3, like right after you did.
Okay.
Did you leave for a little bit, Tim?
I think we lost Tim for a little bit.
We probably lost me.
We had a lag issue last time.
I don't think that would not be the first time. All right, so the character arc here, this one was a little bit more of a struggle for me because, like we talked about, the reveal of who's behind the mask feels kind of abrupt. There's not a whole lot of build up to that, not a whole lot to give us any reason until we get the flashback of him being under the bed at the very end. We didn't see any of that coming. But I think the character story here is really about our love triangle. That's our characters that we're supposed to kind of latch onto and follow, and their growth throughout it. And I don't feel like this movie has a super compelling, like where I am at the beginning to where I am at the end is a transformative journey. I don't feel like it has a super compelling version of that. But I will say that this love triangle, I think, is probably the most compelling love triangle I've seen in any slasher. I kind of like that we're doing a holiday horror film on Valentine's Day and centering it on a love triangle. It feels appropriate. It feels like, hey, take your girlfriend to go see this Valentine slasher movie because there's it felt like they knew what they were doing with it. They really wanted to lean into that. And it's somewhat interesting. It's not super compelling, but you do get the growth of, it's TJ, right?
Yeah, TJ, the one who left town and came back.
Yeah, and I do think that's kind of he's kind of our biggest red herring.
Yeah.
And
Sarah's a hoe, though. Sarah's a hoe trying to play TJ.
Yeah, Sarah is a hoe. Yeah.
I do think it's kind of this interesting arc of he went off to try to make something of himself out west, wherever that is, and failed. And now is home and dad's making him work in the mines. And his dad, he's a Haniger. It's his family mine. So I do think his story is somewhat fascinating. I just don't know that it's a super compelling story for me.
Yeah. Did any of you guys do you guys think there's any arc of any character in this movie at all? There's not a single.
Zero.
Yeah,
it's kill bait.
TJ's an asshole in the beginning. He's an asshole at the end. Nobody goes through any transformation besides from alive to dead.
Yeah.
I like that. Alive to dead.
Well, Axel goes from rescuer to killer.
He does. Yeah.
Yeah, that's within like 5 minutes, but
But you never even really see him as the killer, right? Until because he's got the mask on, so you don't even know who it is
until they
the
rip
very
it
last
off.
shot of him all fucked up. But it's not even it would have been better if at some point they unmask him and he's still kind of chasing them and killing people, and it's that's the reveal versus this oh yeah, we're just gonna end this movie now. That's the guy that did it.
Okay,
I think it's cool though for Axel though. I think it's cool, and I think there is not a great arc, but I think there is one there because he was just this dude, hardworking, he's got the girl, dude. TJ shows up. Next thing you know, everything's all fucked up. It's about to be Valentine's Day. Got that trauma in his head. Oh shit! What the hell? All the stress from her trying to play him and her, with the other dude with TJ, and him getting a little too gnarly with it, and her having to be like, "You need to calm down," and her egging on her ex, and then the ex also egging him on. A whole bunch of shit comes down on him. I think that kind of helps him kind of solidify that snap when he really gets into it with the killing, So and then finally, yes, even though it was so quick, the transition to him being killer, the fact that he played them all by making it seem like he fell into that 60-foot deep cistern or whatever, and made him think he was dead, and then coming up and being like, "Haha, surprise, bitch!" I thought that was kind of cool as far as arcs go.
Surprise!
The fact that he ran away like a bitch without an arm, being all like, "I'm gonna get you, Harry Warden," blah blah blah. All that shit. I thought it kind of sucked that we didn't get more solid ending in that he got away, but that's where a sequel could have come in.
Well,
even though they said Harry Warden was dead, so that wouldn't be possible. But,
well, I do agree with Johnathan. That was kind of my angle at it. Completely, you took the words right out of my mouth with that. But yeah, to answer, I was looking, and there was supposed to be a sequel called The Return of the Miner that was planned for a long time and never got legs and got off the ground. And I think that for a lot of people, that would have changed a lot of people's perspective on this movie.
I don't know. I think if Sarah had just died and TJ and Axel survived, we could have had that great band that TJ and Axel were going to have together. I think one played the harmonica. They both played harmonica, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I really like that guy. Damn it!
It's just like what is it
Bottle of
on
whiskey.
Saw? On Saw, the Saw trap, when they're the two dudes with the woman who's cheating on both of them. Like, it's just
Oh
all
hell
her.
yeah, yeah. I think when I was looking at this rating, I think I was thinking of it because there's no arcs. I was thinking of it more of just characters in general, and I do have to say, like, everybody in this movie does feel for if you're going to take away acting talent, everybody feels pretty real here and believable as real
agree.
people. Like everybody has a personality. You have the Joker, and you have these stereotypes in there. Maybe not to the extent of Friday the 13th, but they're there. But everybody here feels pretty real in a world that feels pretty lived in, and that's kind of more how I was looking at it. I kind of believed in everybody was the role that they were playing, and I thought it was a lot of fun. Like, I think the beginning of the movie with them running out of the mines, showering together, and then running out to the cars and racing to the bar, and
we get like a bluegrass track as they're racing to the bar, and I'm like, it's a great little choice. Yeah, I agree.
They get dirty in the day and then dirty at night. Oh, I did like that little hatch, like that little chop back, like bug that they were kind of putting around and trying to catch with everybody. That was awesome.
So Rich said it, and I'll just say it now. It goes in my editing category, but I'll say it now while I'm thinking about it, because I agree with Rich that I think the reveal of Axel moving up in the timeline of this film would have made the ending so much more suspenseful. If we know that Axel is the killer, and then we see him show up and try to rescue the girls and lead them through the mine, suddenly we know that he doesn't have the best of intentions, and we know that he is with, or those two girls are with the killer, and then suddenly we're waiting for TJ to find them and save them from the killer. By having both TJ and Axel be the killer running through the mines, that scene drags on and on and on, and then we get the reveal of Axel, and I'm like, move that up. I think if you reveal when TJ and Axel get in the fight at the party and they kick Axel out, I think at that moment you go show him put on the costume, or he kills someone out of costume and then puts it on, and we make that connection. And then the rest of the movie is, we know who the killer is now, and we can't trust him when he shows up outside of costume. So I think that adds a suspenseful element.
Yeah,
I was listening. What they could have done. I'm sorry, really quick, just I'm gonna forget this point. But and this probably goes to the editing too. Not just maybe moving that up, but also moving up the fact that Harry Ward has been dead, and then we start thinking like, wait a minute, if he's not the killer, then who is it? Because I know people mentioned earlier there's a lot of red herrings. For me, there wasn't, because to me it's like it's the escaped lunatic that's the killer up until the last 30 seconds of the movie. And I think if they would have put some doubt in your head, that would have made it interesting, and that would have made the characters more interesting, because now you're like really paying attention to them. And for me, like when I'm watching this, knowing that the killer is just some psychopath, I'm not paying attention to the characters. They all seem like disposable kill bait to me, and I would have been more locked into their nuances if I would have known that one of them could be the killer and this was like a Scooby-Doo thing. But it didn't feel that way, like because of the placement of that reveal. Sorry, whoever I cut off.
No, you're good, man. I was just gonna say I was listening to a podcast earlier about this movie, and specifically the characters of the movie that the podcast was focusing on. And they mentioned a funny point, which was how at this point in 1981 in Canada, they must not have discovered walkie-talkies yet. Because in the ending of the movie, when they split up, nobody thought we should bring a method of communication with us from top to the bottom. I just thought that was a funny anecdote.
Yeah. One of those things I was thinking about Axel is, his character writing and stuff is just kind of, I maybe some would say lazy. Biggest thing is too, he's kind of the embodiment of Valentine's Bluff itself, because if you remember, Valentine's Bluff buried Harry Warden's story. They kept it under wraps. Let's just forget about it. We're not going to deal with it. And that's kind of what Axel was, right? I mean, you could call it survivor's guilt, whatever you want, but he is one of those that buried that in his past. And I think he's a perfect representation of the town itself.
Yeah. I mean, I think back then I'm much more accepting of like a trauma based situation more than I am now, like in modern horror. Mm-hmm. Because back then I get it. Like it's fun to just have, a character get flipped when he sees Santa, or he sees a Valentine's Day dance. You know, that's fun. I do think I think you can kind of, there's probably some stuff you can add, with Axel along the way that does kind of point at it more. I think a lot of people think it's surprising to just throw something in at the end and like there's your reveal, but it's really not. It's more confusing for your audience because you gave zero explanation along the way or zero like indications of it at all. And I supposedly the final 2 pages of the script were hidden from the cast up until the final day they were shooting. And some people claim in interviews that that was because they didn't finish writing it and they didn't know what the ending was. Others claim, others claim it was on purpose so that, and then they told both all the actors to act like you were the killer. I think they just didn't have the shit finished until the last day. And then they were like, oh, congratulations, you're the killer. But you can feel that.
It's the final season of Stranger Things. Man, I forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead. Whoever was next.
I have really nothing to add about the characters here, other than I would like to say that my favorite character was Hollis.
Yes,
I think he had a cool arc. He was like this kind of dorky guy, and then he just tries to bring a whole bunch of girls into the mine when they're drunk, maybe trying to hook up. I mean, to me, so that's a transformation in his character.
It has one of the most badass mustaches I've ever seen. We can talk about that.
But, I mean,
I'm glad you brought up the mustache because that's the standout of that character. I'm jealous. I wish I could grow that.
He seems like the most like genuine dude. Like he's the one who has to break up TJ and Axel. Like, come on, guys, knock it off. Like, stop fighting. This is ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's so funny. Now this whole episode, I just want to compare My Bloody Valentine to the final season of Stranger Things. See how like interconnect. You know what I mean? I mean, they do go into the upside down, which could be the mines. You know, what
closely related. Yeah,
it's very closely related. Yep. There's a lot of reds. This is Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Well, aside from that, as far as anything else with arcs, man, I just hope that Sarah learned not to be a hoe, and that TJ would learn not to try to bust up someone else's relationship in a way that would cause another person to snap and start murdering everybody.
Hey, I think she moved on. She made it kind of clear at the end of the party, like, both of you just leave me the hell alone. And then they went into the mines and the movie ends. So yeah. I think she moved on.
Well, speaking of arc, I hope TJ learns to never bring a woman back to the place where you took her virginity or you first had sex, and that doesn't work to get you back together. That's basically what he does by bringing her to that, you know. He's like, oh, I thought this was a special spot. And she's like, yeah, I still don't give a shit.
Yeah. It wasn't as good for me. Then the line about no girls in the mines.
Oh, yeah.
At the end. And I was like, is this like a pirate ship? Like, you're not allowed to have women on the boat? No women in the mines? Is that...
I don't know, because of the woman in the mine at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you hear that? Like, well, what the fuck was she doing?
I don't know. I don't know mining lore, so I don't know that. But when it comes to character, I give it a 2 on the arc. I don't think there's a tremendously compelling arc here, but I do agree. I think the characters feel somewhat lived in, but there's not really growth for positive or negative that happens in this film. So I give it a 2.
I'm all for Axel's twisted arc, so I give it a 4.
Hey, I give it a 5. I don't know what you guys are talking about, because I love seeing his unhinged self, you know, being very self-conscious about his relationship and everything. It just kind of, it adds layers to the very end.
Yeah. Jordan, I agree with you, but that is on rewatch after I know that he's the killer. After I know he's a killer and I watch it again, I think it enhances his character.
I mean, but you see it and you think you could... At least with me, it's like, okay, I can see it now. Okay, that makes sense. So maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say, like, I gave it a 4, but there's a reason I stopped giving star ratings to movies on Letterboxd, because sometimes my ratings make no fucking sense. So take that as it is.
And it's the time of day or whatever you watch it.
It's true.
Oh man, well, I gave it a 3, just right down the middle, you know, just average. I didn't want to disregard Axel. That was probably obviously the most interesting of the characters and his development, but outside of that, really nothing else. Just kill bait.
Yeah, I mean, look, I gave it a 1, and I did watch this twice back to back basically, because I watched it and then I was like, oh, I better pay attention to some of the other things. So I watched it a second time knowing Axel was the killer. And I mean, it's just in the writing, like everybody seemed interchangeable to me. There was nothing special about anyone in particular. They're all kind of like horror tropes, and I don't know. It was very, the characters were very lacking for me. Which again, in a slasher movie, I'm okay with that. I don't need to be like have fancy characters if they're all just gonna get killed. But you know, if I'm gonna rate a movie on a scale, like the characters weren't what made me watch this movie. If I was gonna watch it again.
All right, that's everybody, right? Music and sound design. So this category, we usually don't have a ton to say about this category or spend a lot of time on this one. Right. But this one, I did mention, I kind of like the blue collar soundtrack to it. It's got that bluegrass scene that we talked about. We got the bluegrass music. It's got kind of a country feel at points, and I think it's different than what we see in a lot of other slasher fare. I think the music feels less kitschy and more authentic to our characters and the setting that we're in. And so I think that enhances it a little. I don't think it's like a super memorable, like, yes, I know Harry Warden's theme. It's not a Jason, you know, we don't have that. It's not a Michael Myers. I wouldn't recognize myself Harry Warden's theme. So even thinking about this now, I don't remember one. But I think the sound design is pretty good in this film. And the reason we lump music and sound design together is because some films have no music and it's just sound design. Some films have just music and no sound design. So that's why they end up stuck together. But yeah, I don't have a lot more to say on that one.
Well, I think, you know, the full soundtrack for this, like Paul Zaza's full score for this really hasn't been too available until TerraVision actually just put it out this week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of been hard to find. Like you can find it on YouTube and stuff, and it's actually kind of interesting because like in between John Carpenter's synth scores and Harry Manfredini's string scores, Paul Zaza's is much more like relaxed. It doesn't really sound like a horror score. It's not very memorable, but it's good. It just still feels like pre-standard for the genre fare. It's kind of like when you watch something from the 70s and they're playing like you know, the most angelic, like upbeat music to the most ridiculous scene you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, elevator music.
Yeah, so almost it's like when you watch I don't know, some 1970s TV movie and somebody's getting chased by a werewolf and there's like Joe Crockett playing over them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought with the sound design and music, Tim, you kind of hit the nail on the head with the country bluegrass. I thought the memorable music in this is, I think, memorable because they fit so well within the context of the movie of what's going on. But also, I'm always a big proponent sometimes that you don't even notice a lot of the score. Yeah, maybe some, and I kind of agree with Chris that it's neither this or that. It's just kind of it's there. It doesn't stand out so much, maybe just because of how well it fits. It just adds to it. It's just kind of there. And that's what I appreciate about it. It's not so jarring to where, oh, okay, all I hear is the music, right? It sits well within the movie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I'll say on the music and sound design, I think the opening scene, the music and sound design is really good. Like you have very subtle synth, you hear like the water dripping in the mine, you hear him breathing through the mask, and I think that's really effective. But then after that, like other people are saying, you don't even notice it after that, and it's barely there. And to me, the bluegrass stuff, it's like interesting and unique, but it does make the movie feel pretty dated for some reason for me. Mm-hmm. What I will say about the sound design, and I could get it, like, it's okay if I don't notice it and it's just like forgettable, that's fine. But it's severely lacking in certain scenes. And the scene I'm thinking of in particular is like the final confrontation between TJ and Axel, and they're on the mining car, and there's almost no music. And even when they're fighting, you barely hear anything. And for me, like a fight scene or something climactic needs music. It needs it. And for me, it's boring without it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was like the big climax of the movie. And to not have something bold is a huge letdown, because to me, I'm just like, I'm bored at that point. I shouldn't be. So that's why I kind of scored this one a little lower. But I do think the opening scene is really, really good. I like how that sounds. It really sets a tone for the movie, and then just falls off from there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, my score is mostly just based on the Harry Warden song that Paul Zaza wrote for the ending of the movie. I think that deserves a 5 all on its own.
I thought it was a real track at this time and had to look that up. So it's not my genre, so I wouldn't have known. But
I don't have too much to add to this conversation. My only note is that I did like the beginning, and I thought I was going to have a lot to talk about as far as the music and the soundscape. But just like Rich said, it kind of disappeared after that. So my only note is there's nothing memorable after that. So,
well, I also think that goes to my misdirection. So the opening, is there synth later in the film?
I think there's some droning, creepy drone kind of sounds going on, but not as heavy as it was. I think
it's very low whenever you hear it.
Okay, because
you really listen for it. And it's like, is that drone or is that just noise? It's hard to kind of tell. But I don't think that ever comes back, at least not that I noticed.
So I'm wondering again, is it part of that misdirection of that opening scene with the woman undressing? We got the synth, like we're leaning into some of those things that have been successful already to hook you, and then we take a sharp left turn.
Yeah,
Can I ask a question really quick about that opening scene? I'm sorry if I'm cutting some of this. Is probably skipping ahead, but how does that relate to the plot? Like, who is that woman? And to me, that
why does no one know she's missing?
But it seems like a scene that doesn't even fit the rest of the movie. Like, who is she? Like, did Axel have another girl? I was so confused when the movie was over. I was like, wait, what did that scene have to do with this movie?
Yeah,
other
Jordan,
than again,
good point.
There's a heart. Yeah, did I miss something?
Jordan, Chris, do you know? Because I don't, other than she's the first heart that appears in a box.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's just kind of the catalyst to start the story along, essentially, is what it is, because you have them in the car and they're talking about there's this woman who's missing, and they kind of, I think they hint to it that was her at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can I jump in then? It's a big plot hole then, because if what sets him off is that they're having a dance and he kills this woman before they announce they're having a dance, why did he kill her? I guess or are we just assuming that they had planned this all along? Because to me, it seems like that happens before.
Hey,
or am I overthinking it?
There was no sequel. Maybe that really was Harry Warden.
You might be overthinking it, but I also don't think you're exactly wrong. I was under the impression the dance had been planned for a while.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
The dance thing.
All right. So when it comes to scoring, the music and sound design.
Did you? Can you hear Jordan? Jordan, talk real quick.
No. Can you hear Jordan again?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
No, everyone but
Tim was like, "Fuck whatever you got to say, bro."
No,
I guess it's like
he and Johnathan are frozen on my screen. I don't know what's going on.
What? Can you hear me though, Tim? Can you hear me now, Tim? No, no. Everybody else hears me, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I was saying is the dance really doesn't come up until the bartender really talks about the lore and of everything, and then that's when he's like, "So don't go to that. Don't do it."
Yeah. Well, I do want to say in music,
weird rhyming shit.
Yeah. I do want to say in music, it really kind of considers, like, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but to me, there's two different types of scores, right? There's your traditional, let's say like your more anthem based score, like your more melodic score. And then there's kind of like what you can really consider like atmosphere. I guess if you listen to, like, I think in recent memory, Evil Dead Rise was like the most recent score I've listened to that I'm like, there's no music. It's just kind of noise that blends in with maybe some creepy strings and creepy stuff. It looks like there are 4 tracks on Spotify from Paul Zaza. All 4 tracks run an hour and 10 minutes total, and it's mostly just noise. Like, it's kind of like a drone, and then you have the occasional string, the occasional synth pop in. And while personally, like, I like it, it's no wonder why there's nothing memorable here. It's mostly just atmosphere. No, it's like putting on a thunderstorm while you're sleeping. You know what I mean?
Well, think of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Everything
I think
blended.
that's a prime example. It's just metal noises and little, stings here and there. That's all it is. And I think that's a very good example. It's similar in that aspect. But plus, no one's talking about the song at the credits.
I listen. I talked about it, man. It's
Chris
great.
did.
Oh,
Yeah.
you did? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Look, Tim heard you when you were talking about something I already talked
Yeah,
about.
I got Johnathan and Jordan back now.
Yay!
Yeah.
Technology.
Dude, no, the melody at the end is fantastic. Dude.
Oh, yeah.
That thing's a banger. I'll pull up Windows Down to that Midsummer, bro.
All right, let's score the music and sound design. I was a 3.
As was I. Everything just kind of blended, and I just kind of forgot about it while getting caught up in the action.
You guys are all wrong. I gave it a 5, and I'm not ashamed to admit that because I think the sound design is really the standout here. The water, the rocks shifting, the caves, the music, the sound design in the mine, I think was great, and plus the credit song I think is incredible, and the bluegrass song.
Okay.
Yeah, Jordan, you and you're rolling in the passenger seat, man. I gave this a 5 as well.
There we are.
Wow.
I have a question real quick. Rich, you've made some films.
Correct.
What would it take to film a movie like this in a mine and dealing with capturing the sound without capturing extra audio that you don't want? How difficult would that be? A nightmare to do, or is that?
So
I imagine it would be tough.
It would be.
Being in
It would
line.
be. Yeah. I mean, it would be a nightmare. But I would guarantee that they had just closed mics. It just picked up the dialogue, and then they added in all of the noises in the end. So I think that's all sound design is what you hear. I feel like they blocked out a lot of just the echo and thing, but I feel like they probably did a lot of overdubbing. If you had to ask me, I haven't watched the director's commentary on this, but I would think that you would have to do that just because it'd be hard to pick up clean audio in a very enclosed space like that. But
Yeah. I also don't think they really spent a lot of time trying to get it because 4 times a day while shooting this, they would actually have to evacuate the mines because of methane gas buildup.
God.
Thanks to like barometric pressure would cause this methane gas buildup, and they would have to actually leave the mines. And another part about this too is that they could only use, when they were down in the mine shooting, 25-watt lights.
Oh, wow.
Because anything higher than that was a risk of sparking, which if there happened to be some extra methane in the air could literally kill the entire crew. So I think they were kind of going down there and gunning through this as fast as they can.
Nope. No, thank you. Nope.
Yeah, right.
Nope.
That even they mentioned the methane buildup in the film at one point. That's a cool little real life connection.
I'd be terrified to make this movie. I don't want to be in a fucking mine.
Yeah, no way.
Like the fact that they didn't do this in a set, and I read that they found this mine, it was like perfect, but then when they found out they were making a movie, the town like cleaned it up and did all this work. And then I think it cost them like 70 grand, something ridiculous to make the mine look like a shitty mine again, which to me, I feel like you could have just built a set for that and it would have been a lot safer and you could have done more, but I guess they wanted the authentic actual mine, but it feels like a big risk that I would have never have taken. But
I mean, for comparison's sake, I'm thinking, what other movies have mines? So 8-Legged Freaks has a mine. I'm pretty sure that's a set. It looks pretty good. It looks no better or worse than My Bloody Valentine. And then Zoolander also has a mine briefly, and I do think that was a set.
Yeah,
and it looks no better nor worse than this. So they could have done a set.
Well, yeah.
Stranger Things has the tunnels.
The Descent. The
Stranger
Descent
Things was all CGI.
Well, the Descent was all not even done in caves. They used the bathtub that one scene to try and get the close up of the claustrophobic, crawling through the caves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Did I do my rating? I forget. I gave it a 1 for sound design. Maybe I could have been swayed to move it to a 2, but I feel like it was lacking in certain points where it needed music. I don't see it being anything more than a 2. And I didn't hear the ending credits song because I did watch this on a streaming service that automatically skipped to the next movie, so I don't even know what that song is. So maybe I would have given it a 5 if I would have heard that.
Dude. You got robbed so hard on this one, it sounds like.
I gave it a 2. That's it.
I'm starting to think that Rich likes the My Bloody Valentine single "My Bloody Valentine" from Lifestyles of the Rich and the Famous in 2003 more than this movie.
I haven't heard it, but probably.
Hey, I love having different perspectives on.
No, yeah, I'm just messing around. I was trying to find a way to bring that song into this conversation the whole time.
All right, so that's everybody, right?
Yup.
Yeah.
Okay. Editing and special effects. This was a high point for me. I can see Rich was certainly affected by seeing the theatrical version, that you didn't get to see some of the great effects of this film.
Take my score out of it, but what I did see, like, I thought that the hearts looked really good, that the fake hearts that they used, I thought that looked really good. The kills that I did see, I thought were good, but yeah, I missed. If I would have seen the uncut version, I'm sure I would have given it a much higher score on that.
Cooked heart looked disgusting. I hate that
when they boiled the dude's face in the hot dogs.
That was gross.
In the hot dog water.
And those hot dogs didn't look done when they took them out and ate it. That's another thing why I'm giving this a lower score.
Put that in an air fryer or something.
I will say I really appreciate the title credits effect with the blood drip from the heart and everything. I don't know. I just found that really enjoyable as far as any kind of special effect or graphics goes in this. Just wanted to throw that in there. That was very cool.
I thought
for 81.
Yeah. I thought the practical effects were just phenomenal. Especially for at the time, I think they're great. I think we talked about it. The pickaxe going through the eye was just great. Even the little of him cutting his arm off, still the sound of that scene still makes me a little squeamish. But like, yeah, that, what's her name? Tumbling in the dryer. Like there were the special effects in here were great.
Mabel!
Yeah. Thomas Berman's effects are incredible, and they're really like, I know the George Mihalko has talked about before how the hot dog water death, there was like 9 layers of skin effects built, and they were activated by different heats of water. So that's how they had to shoot it. And it's a shame because I think it was like a 3-minute long continuous sequence in an original cut, and it got trimmed down to almost nothing. But I think the practical effects of this movie are the reason to put this movie on and to watch it. They're really sick. They're really, really, really nasty. And I have a lot of fun, man. I think they're incredible.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it before, but that Sylvia kill where she gets hung on the pipe, and then you see like the pipe kind of go through her mouth, and then like a few moments later she kind of becomes like a water spigot, and the water just kind of starts shooting out of her mouth. I mean, I definitely never saw anything like that before, and especially for the year of this film, I thought that was incredible. And I definitely have to agree with everyone else. A lot of these kills are great. The hot dog kill, I mean, the camera from inside the pot, I mean, that was like I never imagined seeing something like that. And I definitely didn't remember it from the first time I watched it. So I thought a lot of the kills were great. I didn't really judge a lot of the editing. I don't think I'm equipped to do that, but I'm leaning towards the special effects. I thought they did great.
Yeah, there's actually. Go ahead, John.
No, I was really disappointed because I didn't get all that in the shower scene. Like, you see him chasing her in the shower, and then you see dude coming back, and then all you see, from what I saw in my version, all I saw was like the side of her face, this front portion of it, and the water coming out, while the boyfriend looks at her in terror. So I'm like, what the hell, man? Why did I have to miss out on all this good stuff?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it took 4 rounds at the MPAA to finally get this movie through. And even then, the final round that the movie went through, they had a problem with the bartender death, the pickaxe, through the eye. And they had to go back. They were like, oh, you still need more frames cut off. And they were like, there's no more frames. What you're hearing is the sound. And then they sent that back to the MPAA, and the MPAA was like, oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, you're good now. So they just kept hacking away at this thing, man, to the point where, like I said, there's literally lost footage because they had to trim it so much. You have to be so meticulous to keep these little slivers of film that you're chopping out just to try to get, a rating, and they lost them for that one kill. But I think it's a true testament to kind of like I've always believed in rewatching and revisiting movies, going back and watching them again. I think My Bloody Valentine is one that only I think would really, like Rich, when you finally watch the uncut version, I think you're gonna be like, holy shit, dude!
Yeah.
The impact is like so.
Everything
much
I'm
better.
hearing, I'm like really excited. Like even like the shot Jerry was talking about the hot tub in the water. Like I don't have that in my version, and like
What?
Wow.
No way. Oh
yeah,
my
and
God.
I gave directing a lower score because there wasn't anything unique like that. If I would have seen
Holy shit.
any of these things, the water spigot, I didn't see any of this stuff. So for me, I definitely now I really want to rewatch it, and maybe this just become a movie I enjoy because that's what I needed. I needed these scenes that you're all talking about.
Here, let's see. I don't know how well this will
So
work.
I'm pretty sure that that bartender that gets killed with the pickaxe, Rich, I think you'd really enjoy this. I think when he's like walking to like the mine, he's holding a bottle of Cuddy Sark.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So he's got the Cuddy Sark, and I got the Cuddy Sark tonight. So like I paused it quite a few times just to.
I was going to hit you up with a drinking game just to see if you do that, but yeah.
This scene.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Here, this
Oh,
is
we're gonna show him.
He should be holding the Cuddy.
I want Rich to see this, even though this is edited for YouTube still, but like.
Oh yeah, I didn't see
There
that.
it is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I did not see that. Yep. Yeah, that's
It's
cool.
kind of like a marshmallow wobbling.
Yeah, and then he gets dragged from that across the gravel.
Oh yeah, I love when he
I
gets
saw him
dragged
getting
across
dragged. Yeah, I
the
did see
yard.
that,
Yeah.
but I didn't see that happening. So cool, very cool.
I hope I find anything in life as enjoyable as that man finds opening that door. You know what I mean? Like
He was like, "Yes."
You should drink the
Fine,
Cuddy
right?
Sark. If you drink that, you'll enjoy anything.
You give a shit.
Hell yeah.
That's the key right there. Okay, who has more comments on? Oh, I mentioned. I know my big thing. I don't want to cut off if somebody's talking that I can't hear again. For the editing, I do think watching it, going back and knowing that Axel is the killer, the hot dog scene stands out because it's in the same building and Axel is in the room. This is pre the fight with TJ. And so he goes and puts on the costume, does the hot dog killing, takes off the costume, goes back into the room with the love triangle, gets in the fight, and then gets kicked outside.
Well, remind me, is he truly in costume when that happens?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I went back my second watch preparing for this, I was like, I want to see if his appearances line up with costume and all of that. And I was like, yeah, he's in costume because he's wearing the mask at least.
Mhm.
But it looked like he's in full minor gear. And I don't know how quickly they put it on. But that's one that I'm like, if we had moved the reveal up, even if it was that scene that we moved the reveal up, and then he gets kicked out on the fight, then we explain why he is out in costume outside of that area a lot more. So that's a minor gripe on editing. I just wish they had placed it slightly different. The hot dog scene almost seems too early. Like it was like, hey, it's been too long. Let's get another one. And it doesn't really fit with where Axel is supposed to be at that moment. So that's a minor complaint. I think my bigger issue is I do wish we knew Axel was the killer before he and TJ go into the mines to save the girls, because then that changes the suspense level of that
so much
drastically. So
Yeah.
that's my minor gripe on editing. I love the effects, seeing the uncut version. I love the effects of this film.
I think the editing is best in the lead up to the death in the shower. I'm forgetting the character's name. But when she is left alone and wandering this like locker room changing area that's attached to the shower, and the minor outfits are falling from I thought that was the best laid out scene beginning to end. I thought it was really effective. It's a really cool set piece. I think it brings like a really interesting level of paranoia and kind of fear. It kind of reminds me of some of the Scream sequels where like the character wanders into a stab set into like the costume design, and all of a sudden there's Ghostface everywhere. I thought that was really cool with them kind of falling into chaos between the editing leading up to her kill. But outside of that, I mean, the rest of it is just sort of like, I think it gets by just by doing the job fine. I think that's the one standout for me, is that scene.
Are we ready to score? Oh, Jonathan's talking.
No, I didn't have anything to say. I was going to ask to see if anybody else had any other comments on it. Everyone pretty much covered most of the special effects, and you nailed it on the editing. So I think we're good on scoring. Yeah. Did Tim even hear me? I don't know.
He's good on scoring.
Okay, yeah, I can see your mouth moving, but I can't hear what you're saying. I have no. It's so
hell?
weird. It's so random.
Oh,
it is so random. I'm a 4 on editing and special effects because I love the effects of this, but I have to bring it down because of the editing.
I'm a 3.
Man, I'm a 5 again. Those special effects and the editing, like with the outfits falling, the reverse filming of the water in the hot dog kill. Just there was some editing techniques that I did like, and the special effects, of course. I think special effects really do the heavy lifting here, and enough to give it a 5 for me.
Yeah, I gave it a 5. I mean, my rating scale's all fucked up, so
I'll give it a 4, mostly because of like the practical effects.
I give the cut version a 2 just because there wasn't enough effects for me.
Hey.
And editing, just whatever. It just felt like there was nothing special really for what I saw. But
yeah. All right. Onto the script. So how authentic is the dialogue? How well written are the scenes? This one, I feel like I'm a little bit more critical than I am with the story. What I like about the story, but I also do feel like we kind of mentioned with the characters, I do feel like these characters are lived in and pretty authentic to the setting and the environment. I feel like these are young adult 20-somethings who have been working together in the mine and known each other most of their lives. They feel to have that companionship. They seem to have that companionship down through their dialogue. They know this is the cut up. He's going to be cracking jokes. He's not funny, but they act like he is. I feel like they do that pretty well. And if anything, if I were to nitpick the script, it doesn't explain, like we've talked about, Axel snapping quite as much as we'd like. It doesn't have that build up to why Axel is doing what he's doing, other than we get that quick flashback of, which is just a random kid. That could have been any kid under there, because I was also listening for a scene where it explains who Axel's dad was. Did I miss it in multiple views? Do they say early on, like, Axel, your dad was the guy who was here 20 years ago?
Not
so what they actually do, and this is why I think the ending was just tacked on last minute, is after the reveal of Axel, I believe it's the sheriff or one of the older characters is like, oh yeah, that's right, his dad was killed 20 years ago in that massacre. Like, no one thought, like, once this killer was back, to actually be like, oh shit, that guy whose dad was killed, maybe we should like pay attention to him. Like,
we should check on him.
It was so like that's goes into the writing of this.
What seemed like
movie.
a reasonable thing to do, right?
Yeah, the script I think was just like really not good for me. The dialogue's forgettable, the characters weren't developed, and it just seemed like, yeah, that's a major plot point that they would have known from the beginning that like that happened. So that's their explanation. They just forgot.
Did they talk about it in the junkyard scene? I feel like there might have been a mention of it, but don't quote me on that, about his father.
Now I need to go back and watch the junkyard scene a little closer.
Where they're making hot dogs, that scene?
Yes. But again, I might have added that in my head, but I thought they did. And since I'm talking, I might as well go on. So for me, I didn't really like the dialogue. It was kind of like freshman level for me. I didn't think it sounded like the way people should talk. I don't know, that the conversations just seemed a little off for me. So for me, I just took it as, it's a slasher film. And for me, like, I found it very strange and almost a plot hole that like all the women would want to go into like these dark, dirty, dangerous mines to party. Understand they have to get them there for basically this action to happen. But for me, it just wasn't even believable or really connected to the characters of the women that they'd want to do something like that. So I was like, why are they even in here right now? So that was the only like kind of issue I had with it.
You're not buying that these townswomen are really eager to just have sex in mining carts with blankets laid down?
I mean, you saw it. I mean, they're all wearing white and high heels, and they were like dirty and disgusting in like 2 seconds. It didn't seem like the Forum when they had like a nice cafeteria with different rooms upstairs, which seemed like more of a a location better suited for that. But I didn't believe it. I'm like, why? Especially the character of Sarah. I'm like, she just has shown zero interest in the mining life, and all of a sudden she's like, yeah, let's go party in the mines, and like I don't know.
I mean, it's I just want to say real quick, Jordan, it's really disappointing that the mine carts in this aren't like Temple of Doom style.
Yeah.
If these were like Temple of Doom carts, I'd be all down for getting it down on those at 65 miles per hour. But these things aren't moving, man.
They're like small sleds.
It's the longest minecart scene ever. It's so long.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, and this is just me, I'd have to disagree. I think, no, I'm not talking about the minecart, by the way. One, I mean, it's a slasher from '81, so to be terribly nitpicky on the script, I think is kind of doing a disservice a little bit. But with it, I think that what I think the highlights and what I love about it, it does feel very lived in. The characters, we've already talked about this, but they feel very they feel like friends. They've been friends for years. And as far as the women, the way I see it is, look, this was their livelihood. This is how they grew up. They grew up around these blue collar type of people. Like, even from the town I'm from, it's a farming town, and a lot of the women are like that. They're down to go out and have sex in a cornfield, or go.
What town is that?
Road
trip. Sorry, if you could write that, put it in the chat, please.
Yeah, go cow tipping. No, but it's I don't know. For me, it wasn't more of I want to be in a mine. It's more of, hey, look, I'm a little drunk. Here's my opportunity. Let's be a little adventurous. Let's try something new. Let's go to this mine. Come on. It'll be fun. And I get to go with these guys. That's how I see it. And I think the biggest kind of catalyst is this was their lives. They live in a small little, very small populated town in Canada called Valentine's Bluff. And that's just, hey, that might be what they do for fun. It might be where they like to get freaky. Who am I to judge?
Dirty girls.
I live in small town Indiana, so
it gets freakier when the methane levels start to rise.
There you go.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of like one of those things where I feel like sometimes it's still back to, I think, something I said earlier. It's delivering on what I needed to. I have fun with these characters, and I don't want to like them too much to like where I'm like upset when somebody dies, but at the same time, you at least want to believe that these could be real people, and they feel real enough to me. I mean, it maybe not the most real, and I think the acting is pretty not good, but I mean, they felt good enough that I can kind of like hang out with them for 90 minutes.
Yeah. All right, we ready to score this one? Yeah. I am a script. I'm a 4 on the script. I'm a 3.
I don't even know what I put. Hold on. Let me pull it up. I think I gave it a 5. I did. What the hell? Look, like I said, I'm going at this angle. Like, it's an 80s slasher, so I'm not gonna, hold the script up to try and win an Oscar or anything like that for best writing. But I felt like I argued my point was, I think the town itself is it's written so well. The lived in town, the characters, their interactions with each other, I really love. So
yeah,
my opinion for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it a 4, but I do want to say my 4 for this movie's script is very different from my, Ari Aster 5 You know, these are very different high end scores.
It comes with caveats.
It comes with many caveats. Yeah.
I gave it a 3. That's average.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think y'all are being really generous. I gave.
He's like the hell with this movie,
and like, I mean, look. I guess if you compare it to like Friday the 13th, it's like basically the same script. Like, okay, fine, but like, to me, for me to give a movie a high score and a script, it's got to be well written. It's got to have great dialogue. It's got to have good characters that are believable. I know you said they feel lived in. Everybody felt completely interchangeable to me. I feel like it was sloppy storytelling. Again, I give it a 1. And again, I'm not expecting a slasher movie from 1981 to be a 5. Like that's not what I'm looking for. But if I'm going to grade a movie on writing, like it needs to be something I'm going to remember, and I'm not going to remember this story. So for me, it's a 1.
Okay. All right. Was that everyone?
I believe so.
I didn't hear Jonathan's. That's fine. So on to the acting.
I said that was a 3, Tim.
Okay. You're on mute, Jonathan.
Yeah. If I could selectively mute, I can't though. Acting. That's acting. They did fine with what they had there. I don't have a ton to say about the acting, other than I think my favorite character whose performance is the sheriff, who always shows up with a pipe that's not lit in every scene, just hanging in his hand, in his mouth. I'm like, I want to be that guy when I'm 70, but that's it.
Peak
I just want to get riffed, but I keep getting interrupted with all this shit. Oh.
Peak acting in this movie is pulling a human heart out of the hot dog water and going, they're just joking us. All right.
So, and the guy opening the fridge at the same time and missing the body sitting at the bottom because of the heart in the hot dog water.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't it Axel that was opening the fridge, grabbing the beer? So he was able to ignore it since he killed the guy.
What? Oh, I tried to watch to see if that was Axel. I don't know if it was.
I thought that was Axel that opened up the fridge when they were doing all that.
It.
He's like, I forgot to put that in there.
Oh, hey, there it is.
Acting, it was okay. I mean, I don't think it was the worst acting in the world. I got to give kudos to the Canadian accents. That's worth something, I think, with the acting.
They're so
pure Nova Scotia.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where like all of the characters that maybe only get one line of dialogue or one scene, like, you know, the side characters almost feel like they're doing better acting than your main characters are. It's like just these little, like the dog that runs out, you know, in front of the truck. You're like, he's doing a great job. He doesn't get hit.
Yeah,
you know, kudos to him.
That looks really authentic. Like that was just in the neighborhood as they were filming, and it came out and chased the car.
Yeah.
It's the same with the dogs eating the heart off the step later. I'm like, those dogs look mangy. Like they set stuff out and then they're like, oh shoot, there's dogs, they're coyotes getting into it. Let's film this. This is great. Like, yeah, they look natural. They did not look like trained movie dogs at all.
I will say
that's just how good their acting is.
Yeah, the dogs were the standout.
I'm terrible with names, so forgive me. The couple of, you know, the woman who dies in the shower, when he gets to the party, he picks her up by her head and gives her a kiss. And that is wild work. Like my wife is very short. I've never been like, oh, let me grab your skull and lift you to my current height.
It's foreshadowing for when she gets impaled on the shower head.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, I saw that scene and I was like, damn, that's gotta hurt. I don't like, that doesn't sound fun to me. That's a weird kind of kink.
It puts her down her neck like bangs in a spring head. It's like, oh man.
All right, we don't have a lot to say on the acting.
I thought Mabel was a little overplayed during her death.
How dare you?
I will dare, sir.
Mabel.
I will dare.
Get away.
I thought she was overplayed on her whole thing. Like you're scrambling, you know, fumbling, and then like you're almost like you could have just run out the back door, but you are so slow that he grabs you, pulls you back, and then you still roll around. It's just, I thought her whole shtick was a little top for getting murdered. I don't know. That's just me.
I really liked her performance in the dryer, though. That was believable.
Brilliant work.
That was good. I gave the acting a 3.
3.
Yeah.
I gave it a 4.
I gave it a 3, and I also want to give a 3 to the dryer, who For my clothes, if I put a blanket in there that's a little too wet, it shuts itself off. And these dryers can supply a full body and never shut off until you
Hey,
open the
these
door.
are industrial.
Though
dryers.
they ran all night long, bro.
Come on,
Those things were
Those
good,
dryers were
bro.
running.
you need to get me some of those.
The dryers in a mining town are built different.
Yeah, they have to be. Yeah.
I gave it a 3. Basically, unknown cast. They got through it. You know, it's pretty good, I guess, for for who they were and at the time. So just a 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was the most generous with the acting. I gave it a 3 also. To me, like, there wasn't bad acting in it. Like, there was nobody that was annoying where I'm like, oh my God, this is like cringy. It was just regular. So I feel like everybody did as good a job as they could have with the script they had. So it was fine.
Well, I think the bartender, his whole rhyming scheme telling the story was a little annoying, but that's just me.
Does anyone know his name? Does anyone know his name?
No.
Was it that Happy?
Happy.
They call him
It's
Happy?
Happy. I think his name was.
Yeah.
All right. On to the direction. So this one is tough. And this one is tough because of the theatrical version would drastically change my score of this film. But seeing the uncut version of this, I really like a lot of the build up to some of the kills. I mentioned, I think from a director standpoint, oh yes, check my notes and remind what I wrote down. This does something that I love in horror movies, and that is using brightly lit scenes for character moments. It's not gloomy. We see them in brightly lit bars. We see them at the dance studio hall before when they're decorating. It's brightly lit. It's fun. It looks like it could be a low budget rom-com from the 80s for a good chunk of the film. We see them walking down the street of the town decorated to the rafters with Valentine's decorations. That I love that setting of the scene and setting of the area. I hate horror movies. The 2000s was notoriously bad for this, where it's just gray and dark the whole time. I hate that. So I love that this movie starts us off with some brightly lit character moments before we descend into the mines and things get dark. And I feel that reflects the story as well. So I really like that from George. I love the way he chose to do that, setting up our characters and making it feel, I guess it feels more natural when, I don't know, I don't step outside every day and it's dark and gloomy all the time. So when the sun is shining in a horror movie, it feels, I notice it and I appreciate it because the sun shines in real life. I hate when it's constantly gloomy in horror movies. So I really appreciate that aspect of it. I like the town feeling very lived in, it feels like an authentic small town, which it was. So I like that he chose to show that before we get into the mines and the killing and all of that. And I also think finding, I forgot her name. We were just talking about her, the old lady Mabel, finding her in the dryer during the daylight. He emphasizes the smell in that scene. He has the actors all, so initially the sheriff, and then later when the others show up, someone comments on the smell or they're holding their nose or something. I'm like, yeah, that would smell pretty, I don't know if it would smell good. I assume it would smell bad, but I like the smell of cooking meat, but I don't know how that applies to this situation. But they're, he's holding his nose as he opens the dryer and there's smoke coming out. And that's just a little detail that I like that Mihalka brought out. He made sure, hey, this is probably going to smell terrible. So be sure to get that in there. So I appreciate those elements of it. Again, like I said at the beginning, I do think we could shave time off of that, leave in the kills, leave in all of those scenes, shave off some of that chase through the mine at the end. That just, for me, that kills so much of the suspense that's built because they just keep going and going and going. And then they go up a ladder and then they come back down that ladder and then they go another direction. I'm like, come on. So that's my biggest complaint.
Yeah, we call that final girl fatigue on the horror heads. That's what we call it, because it ruins a lot of films. And I think this was in the 80s, but honestly, I think films now are going even longer. So,
oh my God.
You guys go. Sorry to interrupt again.
No, I was going to say Christmas Bloody Christmas was like the worst at that. The final girl goes through like 7 scenes of trying to fight this thing, and I'm like, I just hope she fucking dies by now. I'm just like, already.
Yeah, exactly. You can go on so long, you ruin the goodwill that you built, and now we're rooting for the killer to take out our character. Like, all right.
Yeah. I mean, I think this movie's fine. I believe, I think his name was Robbie or Rodney Gibbons. He was a cinematographer here, and this is still kind of the era. I think pretty much most of these slashers look like TV movies. It's a lot of just like coverage, basic coverage. There is some interesting, like, I think shooting, there has to be a good relationship between the director and your makeup effects artist on how to shoot the effects. And I think that that's where this movie shines the most, is how it shoots the effects. Like you just showed the eyeball scene with Happy. When the camera's panning down, it's supposed to be POV and the headlamp is shining really bright on. I think it's a cool, just, change up on the visual of the scene. I do think the ladder scene was cool because it was actually laid flat. So the camera is shooting underneath on a track, shooting it. So the ladder, they were actually crawling. What would this be called?
Horizontally.
Yeah, horizontal to the floor. They were walking on the ladder that way. So I thought there was some cool stuff that they did as far as just production wise, but it's directed just fine. I mean, it gets through. It's not as flashy as the remake. Clearly, I think Patrick Lussier really took it up to a next level and really bringing in CGI and just cooler modern day digital tricks for that. But it gets along just fine. It's just as well shot as any 80s TV movie you're going to find.
Yeah, just to agree with you, Chris, right there. So there are a couple of things they did that I really like. I like the scene with Mabel where it's dark and the only thing you see is the light on her face from his helmet. That's cool. The scene we referenced earlier where the uniforms are dropping and the woman's panicking, that was shot really well. But other than that, it does feel like they set up a camera, hit record, set action, hit stop. Like that was kind of what most of this movie is. Like there's not a lot of techniques or anything like that, at least in the theatrical version, where you really notice like, oh, this is really artistic or different, or it does feel like a TV movie. It feels very similar to so many other things. So there's nothing special about it to me, but it's serviceable. It's not like it's poorly directed.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought they did some cool stuff, just from like some of those first person kind of angles. Kind of just echoing again what like Chris and Tim said, look cool at times. Yeah, I did like the atmosphere. I did like a lot of the atmosphere. I did think they built that really well and make it feel like a gritty kind of small town. Yeah, but it's average again for me.
Yeah, I think. And I mean, even in interviews, like there's an interview with George Mahalka on the Scream Factory release where he talks about how he watched Halloween and he's like, oh, I think that POV thing is really cool. So he just did that. So there wasn't, I feel like there wasn't a lot of like internal influence to make a good horror movie. It was more of like when he was approached, he had never done a horror movie. And there was actually a really funny quote with him where he's talking about with the producer. And because I think the only film he directed before this was a comedy. And the producer came to him and was like, hey, we have this spec script for a horror movie. And George Mahalka said, well, I've never made a horror movie. And the producer said, well, you never made a comedy before you made your last movie. So it just kind of feels like he was tossed in as just kind of like your basic like running gun director, and he was able to serviceably, get it done. It actually feels like, I think this is a good example of how the people you surround yourself with can elevate. I think the production designer, their visual aesthetic they put onto the town, I think made it very convincing and real. I do love the paper hearts everywhere and the laundromat. The real life setting of the mine kind of, I think, drives up the visual appeal of it just because naturally they look so cool. So I think for as standard a director as he can be, I think some of the people on the crew around him sort of elevated his work a little bit by just doing cool stuff with what they do.
I really appreciate you mentioned the paper hearts around the town. I love that Axel took the time in the laundromat to after he stuffed Mabel in the dryer, he went around and turned all the hearts upside down. That was a nice little touch.
Yeah.
All right. Direction. I give it a 3.
3.
I gave this one a 4. I enjoyed it. I think the set design is really what stands out for this.
Yeah, I gave it a 4.
I give it a 3.
I give it a 2. I give him credit for shooting half the movie in a mine, but like someone said, there's nothing unique about this as to direction. It's basically they took elements from a couple Halloween, Friday 13th, the movies that they were ripping off, and then just duplicated them a little bit. So nothing special for me. Wasn't bad, but like I wouldn't call him a good director or average director for that matter. He got through it.
All right. So was that everyone?
Yeah.
All right. The it factor, the cultural significance of this one. So I mentioned at the beginning that this is perfect time to talk about the theatrical release of this film and it being so chopped up by the MPAA wanting out those 9 minutes that it did affect how this movie did. It had an impact on it, and it had an impact on the legacy and why we probably didn't get to see that sequel made is because it wasn't as well received at the time it was released. I think we, with the benefit of hindsight and getting to see the uncut version of this film 30 years after it's released, I think we can appreciate the film a lot more. I've seen more people talking about this film now in the last couple of years than I did 10 years ago. You know, I see more love for this movie now than I did 10 years ago. So I think it has a bit of that cult status in it that came later. And I think it came with that uncut release of the film. I don't know that if the theatrical version was the only version we got, many people would love this film.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Culturally, the impact, the MPAA, yes, they did a disservice, and that's part of, I think, what gave this such cultural impact. You have to look at it like you perfectly put. It came out, and it was dumbed down. It was just cut every which way, and we compare it to that. It completely shifts people's opinion on the film for the most part, and I think culturally, that's pretty significant in my opinion. Plus, being a Canadian slasher film, I mean that wasn't really, I guess, Canadian as in that's like the main anchor of the story is how Canadian it is, and that was pretty.
As in, it actually takes place in Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how many people you're going to get outside of horror fans are going to know the movie. I think a lot of people will know the title thanks to the band and, you know, the multiple songs. I mean, Machine Gun Kelly just had a single, My Bloody Valentine, like 4 or 5 years ago? You know, like, I think the title is out there and people know it. And I tried to look up, like, if that was a term, like a coined term before this, and it wasn't. They really credit the band with it. And then the band is like, hey, this comes from a movie that came 2 years before us. But I think within the horror community, this one is widely respected, I think, but mostly for it's the effects and the impact of the effects. And that conversation, I believe the uncut version came out in 2019. I think 2018 or 2019 was when the Scream Factory Blu-ray came out. And that was when the first time ever it was fully restored. So I think that's your kicking off point for its second life. I think now it's highly regarded as a cult slasher film, and especially for how early it does kind of arrive in the boom and kind of always gets hidden in that Friday the 13th Halloween. Because I think overall, I think it's a really cool movie, and I think, you know, Tarantino coming out and saying it's his favorite slasher of all time is, I can't really argue with him. It's a lot of fun. I think it deserves to be watched in this form. You know, I almost wish, like, everybody who saw this theatrically 40 years ago, I almost wish we could, like, force them to watch it again, you know, against their will, and see if it changes for them. But
I will say it's probably one of the greatest titles for a horror movie. It's a title's brilliant. And, like, you want to see this movie. Like, when I hear that title, it's like I want to see what this movie's all about. And the movie, when it did release, it was profitable, but it wasn't profitable enough. Like, they wanted Friday the 13th success, they wanted Halloween success, and it wasn't that. It kind of came and went, made its money back, but came and went. And that's why, kind of, to me, when I was kind of reading it factor cultural significance, I was thinking for the time. And kind of when it came out, came and went. It's just another holiday slasher movie that never spawned a sequel. So for me, I would say it had very little. However, like everybody's saying, now that there's an uncut version, it's getting cult classic status. And maybe for me, just because, like, I didn't really know that. I didn't know there was an uncut version. I didn't know there was, like, all this missing. To me, it doesn't feel significant because, again, I watched it 20 years ago, never wanted to watch it again. So, you know, take whatever I rate this with a grain of salt, because I'm looking at it through 1981. Not a big deal, not important.
Well, what's interesting is that this was originally developed by Canadian Film Development Corporation during the Canucksploitation, kind of like early Canucksploitation boom. But then 2 weeks into production, Paramount bought this, and Paramount already had Friday the 13th, right? At this point, right?
Correct.
So Paramount picked this up for some reason. They already had a hit on their hands with Friday the 13th. I guess they thought this could be good, you know, programming to go alongside it. And it sucks that the MPAA, that it went through what it did, because I think that ruined a lot of it. But Friday the 13th, you know, wasn't nearly as cut as this, and still made the theaters and were successful. So I don't know how to really argue that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, again, they abandoned the marketing on it. Like, you know, a million things could have happened in 1981 as to why this wasn't a hit. Again, to me, I need to watch it again and see this version and see, like, if I enjoy it more, because it does have a lot of flaws. But, you know, it's a bummer, right? Like, it could have been another franchise. That's what Paramount wanted. They wanted another franchise, and they thought this was it, and it just wasn't.
Yeah.
And
but
that's
profitable. And that's a big deal. Like, the fact that it made its money back. I think the box office did like $8 million or something out of $6 million budget. Pretty significant for this kind of movie. So
yeah, I also think, well, the budget was much higher for this film than it was for Friday the 13th too. I think that was one of the critiques the studio probably has, looking at it, is like, well, this costs a lot more and didn't make as much, but it did make it back and earn somewhat of a profit.
Oh, budget was 2.3 million. It earned 5.7 million.
Okay.
So still pretty low, but I mean, Friday the 13th probably would cost less, as you said.
I think Friday the 13th was like 500,000. It was, it was real low. But I think it's a shame that we didn't really get sequels, because I think the character of Harry Warden is fascinating. I love the costume. I love the mask. The poster is awesome. The original poster is so good. I want to see more of that minor. The pickaxe and the mask is a fantastic costume. I loved it. So, and one of the things that I think this movie does better than some other slashers is that, I'm calling him Harry. The character of Harry, I felt stayed like a threat through the third act. He felt intimidating all the way through. Even if I think the third act drags on the chase, when Harry shows up, he's smashing boards, he's beating people down, and TJ fends them off a little bit, but it's not easy. And sometimes I feel like slashers get to the third act, and the person who was the ruthless, efficient killer in acts 1 and 2 is suddenly clumsy and being overpowered, or, you know, conveniently not as effective in the third act. But I don't feel like that was the case for Harry. I feel like Harry stayed intimidating through to the end. And so I do wish we got more of Harry Warden. I think it's a fascinating character. And I think that's the biggest bummer when it comes to this movie, is that it wasn't until the 2000s, when we got the Jensen Ackles remake, that we got to see more My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on kind of like what you prefer. People like to say that they prefer average, like, size people as killers in their movies. They're like, oh, it's realistic. You know, the guy's 5'10", 180. To me, I think this costume would be terrifying on like a 6'2", Derek Mears build. I mean, I'm just imagining someone rounding a corner and just dramatically overpowering somebody in this. So that's kind of like what I like to think the real Harry Warden might be like, just a great big overpowering. It's a very menacing silhouette. I think it's a terrifying idea. The pickaxe is, I think, the most terrifying part of it. I think the struggle with a sequel is, I mean, what happens to the town from here? I mean, there's no way they're just going right back to work in the mines, right? Like they're packing up shop, and what are you going to do with it? How do you explore it further? I don't know. So I know he was talking about doing a sequel, like as of the time the interview that I watched, which was like 2019. George Mihalko was actively working on a sequel at that point, in development of a sequel, and then it just never happened. But as I stare at my Mutilator poster on my wall right behind my computer,
Mutilator 2.
The Mutilator rules, and they came back 40 years later and made the Mutilator 2, which is a pile of shit. So I'm kind of happy it never happened. There's like there is a point where it's like it's been too long and the charm is gone, and I think I'm happy it's just kind of like a one-hit wonder.
For me, man, I had a hard time with this part of it because, I mean, I'd never really heard of this film until recently, until I saw it on the list. I've never really heard anybody talk about it, so it's hard to really put much into it. Although, like I said earlier, when you watch Silent Night, Deadly Night, there's somewhat of a similar plot there with childhood trauma creeping back up to turn you into a killer as an adult, that kind of thing. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, and like the band My Bloody Valentine, were they actually named for this movie? Is that like a thing, or is that just coincidence?
What, the band?
Yeah.
Yeah, the band credits this movie as their name. Yep.
Okay, I wasn't sure about that. I mean, so that's kind of cool. Right? I can dig that, but other than that, I just don't feel like there's much significance other than being one of those early big films and that kind of. I don't have much to say on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard too, man, because even like, I don't even think Friday the 13th Part 1 or 2 or 3 holds as much significance as 4 and 6. Like, or correct. I think Halloween really hit its peak as far as significance with H2O. You know what I mean? Like, I think some of these franchises, like, they're making money and they're doing well, and then they reach a point where it really hits off. And that's when your majority of people are seeing it at that time. I mean, Halloween is incredibly popular. Halloween H2O, people love to say they like just as much as the original, but that's the Scream generation talking about that. So
that's my generation.
Yeah, which is not like, I like Scream. I don't have a problem with Scream, but I think horror was so different then. It's taking them and trying to put them in the 80s and understand kind of like where the roots were coming from is a little more difficult.
All right. So the It Factor, our scores for that one. I'm kind of what Rich was saying. I kind of take the It Factor and go to the time of its release. Sometimes I might buffer that if it has a cult following since, but at the time of its release, I had to go, this movie was a 2 on the cultural significance and It Factor. And that's not a critique of the film. It's kind of, it could be the marketing, the studio. Like we said, I don't know how this movie was marketed, even though I think the poster is kick ass. It just didn't have the resonance that so many others had at that time. And I wish I could put my finger on it. I think the MPAA is to blame. And I think that's the main case here, but I'm a 2.
I also am a 2 on that It Factor.
Wow. Yeah. Well, no surprise. I did give it a 5, and it's almost negatively culturally impacted. You can look at it that way too, because that's significant as well with the MPAA. But I also looked at it as, how are we today? Where has it evolved? And within the horror community, it's, like Chris said, it's highly regarded within the horror community, especially with that uncut. It's that's why I just think it's, personally, I think it's pretty culturally impactful, and I could see it on both ways, right? Negatively and positively.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand all sides of it. I mean, I ended up giving it a 5. When I'm thinking of 1981, this is one of the titles that comes to mind. And I mean, that could be influenced within the last 7 years of having this cut out. But when I think of a year, those first 5 that come to mind to me were the most significant to me looking back. So that's why I rated it like that.
Yeah, I'm rating it a little high. I'm thinking of it now. Just
You're
thinking of
loud.
sorry, last week. All through my social media, basically all I saw was like images of this film. Like literally every single person was watching this film. So people are getting into it like now. And
Mhm.
I think it has some significance for being like a Valentine's Day holiday horror. And I think they created a really cool killer. So I'm gonna say, it has a decent it factor just because of that. 4.
Fair.
Yeah, so like, hearing what Jerry just said would make me maybe bump my rating up a notch. I did give it lower than everybody else, like usual on this topic. I gave it a 1, and I think because again, at the time it came and went. But the other reason is, yes, like everybody said, the movie's highly regarded. It is a cult classic. Take that as you will. But I've never seen another movie that I felt was influenced by this movie. Now, I might be wrong, and I'm sure there's some filmmaker that's like, this is the only slasher movie, this is my slasher movie, but I've never seen something and it's like, oh, that reminds me of that, or they definitely seen My Bloody Valentine. Other than the title and it being one of the only movies about Valentine's Day, like, there's nothing interesting. If someone else made a really cool, like, Valentine's Day horror movie, that would be the one we'd be watching every year. But instead, this was the only one, so this is the one we watch.
Is Hard Eyes going to replace this?
Yes.
I liked Hard Eyes, believe it or
Hard Eyes
not.
is
So
great.
if that came out in 1981, maybe that,
I still haven't.
that
I
would
still
be the
haven't seen
movie.
it. I want to see it. I still haven't seen that one, but I've heard good things about it. All right.
Surprisingly, I liked it.
Was that everybody?
Yes.
I believe
Okay. So final category. This is where you just out of 10. How much do you enjoy this film? This is kind of your final segment. I sent you guys your final scores. So you can drop how much you enjoyed this out of 10, what that brings your score to. And our scores, for example, if your score is a 45, that would mean that your personal rating is roughly 4.5 stars out of 5. That's what you would give it based on what we do here. So if your score is a 32, you might round it down to 3 stars out of 5, so on. But out of 10, how much did you enjoy it? And then end by dropping your total score. So whoever wants to kick this off.
I mean, I fucking love this movie. I always have a lot of fun with it. It's something that it's a movie that I kind of feel like there are times when I get to introduce people to it who kind of go like, oh, I think I've heard of this before, or they've seen the Jensen Ackles remake and they're like, oh, let me see the original, and I always still end up liking it more than them. So just on pure entertainment, I gave it a 10. My final score was a 44, which I think is pretty accurate to how I feel about it. Technically, it is what it is. It's stuff that I can ignore. I mean, I've recently with Valentine's Day, Hard Eyes and X-Ray have kind of become Valentine's Day films that have taken up a little bit more of a spot for me. But just because I feel like I might have overwatched My Bloody Valentine in prep for like my own personal work on it. But we'll see what the next couple of years, bring.
Well, I gave it a 10. And for me, just because I've even found myself wanting to watch this outside of Valentine's Day. I love this movie. I really enjoy the character of Harry Warden. You know what I was thinking, Tim? You had said it's not really Harry. It's almost like Ghostface, right? It's not always one particular person. It is just Ghostface. So that's kind of how you can look at it. But anyways, my final score was a 46. So probably the highest one here. But yeah, for me, it's just I really, really love this movie. It is the main Valentine movie for me. Hard Eyes is great as well. So is Valentine with David Boreanaz. But anyways, this is a movie that I will sometimes watch a couple times a year, even outside of a holiday.
Right on. Me, I'm a 7. I liked it for what it was. Wasn't anything too over the top, anything that was like super spectacular, but I liked the amount of kills that it had, the pace that it went, the story itself, and just the characters and the way they all got along, how everything worked together. That was cool. So yeah, 7 on overall entertainment, but my total score was a 31.
All right, Jerry and Rich.
Awesome. Yeah. So I gave it a 6, slightly better than average. I did enjoy this film. I think it is a fun watch. It's definitely a fun holiday horror watch. So, I'd probably keep it seasonal. I'm not sure if I'm going to watch this, in, July or anything like that. But I think a lot of, I liked a lot of the scenes. We talked about a lot of them tonight, especially like those really cool scenes with like those suits falling. The atmosphere I thought was great. I love the local bar scenes. There are a lot of things I like. There are many times it kind of did feel like Scooby-Doo, and I thought that was kind of cool, especially like in like the mine. So
the ongoing chase.
Yeah, like it kind of felt like that. If they had a great, kind of like soundscape in the background today, they could have really nailed that. But yeah, so I gave it a 6, and my overall score is a 32.
Perfect.
Cool. So, I mean, no surprise, I didn't enjoy this movie. I gave it a 3. I think even when I rewatch it and see the extra gore, I'll definitely like it better, but I don't think this is ever going to be a movie that hits my rotation. I think there's other movies I would rather watch that are very similar. And I think maybe it's because there was never sequels and I'm not really into the character of the killer. I don't know, but I'd probably go from a 3 to a 5 based on the gore, but my final score was a 16.
Okay. And I think if we left Friday the 13th with just Friday the 13th, I wouldn't care that much for it.
Agreed.
Either.
Same.
So it's my love of the franchise that is seeing Jason over and over again. For me, this film is a regular Valentine's watch. I watch it every February. It's like outside of what I watch with my wife, I don't watch much made in the last 20 years. Like I watch a lot of older stuff. I watch 70s, 80s, 90s. That's what I'm watching. And so I go to these movies. I go to slashers movies. They're kind of a comfort thing. I don't expect high art. I expect a good time, So, and that's kind of where my enjoyment comes. This movie's a 9 for me. I think it drags a little bit in the chase through the mines. That's it. I love the buildup. I think the buildup is great kind of suspense of like, we know the killer's out there. They don't. What they're doing is going to lead to a massacre. I just wish the chase through the mines didn't go on for a decade. But yeah, I really do enjoy this film. I do kind of enjoy I really enjoy the Ice Nine Kills song about this film. I think it's fantastic.
Take your pick.
Yeah, that's an excellent song. Not that affects the score, but I enjoy this film. So that's all I have to say on it. I am a 9 out of 10. My final score is a 35. So sitting at 3.5. And I find that is kind of where I put most slashers that I like, because typically I don't think slashers are the best made films, but they're fun films. And I think that's kind of a perfect spot for 3.5. I enjoy this one. So that is all of our final scores. Johnathan, you ready to read us out?
I just want to say, after all this talk about mines, I think when we're done, I'm going to put on some dwarf metal and listen to some Diggy Diggy Hole. Just seems appropriate.
I should say, since our whole point is the averaged our scores, took our 6 scores, added them up, and divided them to see the consensus of us all tonight, where we land. And we land at a 35 out of 50, which is a 3.5 stars total. So 3.5 stars out of 5 is where we arrived with our varying opinions.
And if I wasn't here, it'd probably be a 4.5. I sandbagged you all. I'm the anchor.
You're the Alex to my TJ, man.
Nice. Well, speaking of sandbagging, the dust has finally settled in the mines of Valentine Bluffs. And looking at the board, man, we are all over the place tonight. I don't think we've had a spread this wide in a long time.
It's rare to see a scorecard look this chaotic, but it makes sense. A huge part of that comes down to the history of the film itself. The difference between the 1981 theatrical release and the uncut version we finally got to see 30 years later it's night and day. It provides 2 completely different viewing experiences depending on which one you watched or grew up with.
But honestly, that's exactly why we do this. Tonight was a perfect example of how we all view movies differently based on our own history, our tastes, and even which version of a film we sit down with. That is what we celebrate here at The Average. We don't need a unanimous consensus to have a great time. We just need a good conversation.
Exactly. The Average isn't about everyone agreeing. It's about finding the middle ground between all of our different perspectives. And the conversation tonight was top tier. I want to say massive thank you to our incredible group of panelists, creators, for bringing so many unique angles to the table. Jordan, you can say a farewell and where people can find you and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for having me on. I really did enjoy this. Jordan, the Movie Den. You can find me mainly on YouTube, Instagram, and we just talk mainly horror movies, and we focus it more on the physical media side of things. Coming up next Thursday, Chris is going to be on it with me with one of our good buddies, Steven from After Hours. We're going to be joined with a special guest talking about 1983 horror films. So next Thursday, be there for that. But anyways, yeah, that's about all I have. Thank you for having me on, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. All right, Chris.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. Thank you guys for the awesome conversation. I am one half of the Beyond the Blood podcast, where we break down genre films based on their audio commentaries. We're part of Someone's Favorite Productions, so you can always find us on any podcast platform that you listen to. You can find me on Instagram at Bearded Film Guy. I'm always just kind of showing off physical media there and talking about movies there. And yeah, it's really about it. We are dropping our episode next week. We're diving into the audio commentary for Event Horizon and talking about that movie in a little bit more in depth, and kind of going into some rumors about a possible director's cut that's been found. Also, tomorrow morning, if you're listening to this right now, we're dropping a new episode style called Staff Picks, where we just get a guest and talk about a movie without all of the extensive research we do for the primary episodes. And tomorrow's episode is for 1991's Popcorn. And it's very special for me because my wife is on it with us.
Hey,
cool.
So if you want to hear a less like a deep dive, just a little bit more kind of like loose conversation, that'll be out tomorrow morning.
Event Horizon is a fun film, whether you're a Warhammer 40K fan who thinks that this is the origin of the warp, or if you think it's better than the Hellraiser in space movie, because it's very similar to that. Gets pretty Cenobite at the end. Yeah. All right, Rich and Jerry.
Yeah, no, thanks everybody for having us on. I really enjoy when I highly dislike a movie to talk to people who really liked it, because I love kind of hearing what I might have missed. And I do feel like I learned a bunch of stuff that I'm going to pay attention to for the next go around. So thanks for that conversation. Yeah, you could find us. We have a horror podcast. We release episodes every Tuesday. It is called Horror Heads. You could find us wherever podcasts are available on YouTube. We actually have a special contest going on right now on YouTube, so you could check that out if you go to our channel, like, subscribe, do all the things, and you can find us on Instagram at Horrorheads Podcast. But yeah, thank you for having us on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun, man. Thanks to everyone on the panel. Thanks for having us here. This was so much fun, and we're happy we finally got to do it. So thank you.
Yeah, glad you guys could be here. Truly.
All right, so we are truly humbled by you guys spending your post-Valentine's hangout time with us. This felt less like a review and more like a horror hangout. Everyone, please make sure you go follow these guys. Their links are in the description. They are doing some of the best work in the community, so make sure you check that out.
Next week, we're cleaning the soot off our faces and trading our pickaxes for magic wands. We are kicking off our new Sword and Sorcery series, and we're starting with the 1988 fantasy classic Willow.
Woo!
Wow.
Hey, yeah. Get ready for some George Lucas produced magic, brownies, and Val Kilmer in his prime, and a little bit of Warwick Davis from Leprechaun. Wah, wah, wah. Make sure you head to the link in our bio to submit your scorecards for Willow early, and we'll see you right back here next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Not next. That's my typo. 2 weeks.
Yeah,
2 weeks. Although next Saturday is February's Dread broadcast episode, so you can catch that one. Kelsey, who has been on many Dread broadcast episodes, is joining us for the Willow episode, and she and I are both reading the novelization because she does a lot of book stuff on hers. So we're reading the novelization and going to talk about the differences between the novelization and the film. But that's what we have coming up. I'm Tim.
Oh, I'm Johnathan.
This has been The Average.
Because at the end of the day, the real review happens with your friends. Good night, everybody.